Hey Para Squad, what is up? I'm gonna try to sync this in right quick, so if my outfit's the same as the last vlog, that's because I'm trying to be stealthy. Let's talk about my name. How did I get the name ParanormalPI? It's actually an interesting story, not anything that anyone would ever see coming, I don't think. So, funny side note is that when I was a kid, I loved the show Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Both the actual Melissa Joan Hart, is that her name? I feel like that's wrong. That might be right. You know what I'm talking about, the little blonde girl. The actual show, and then also there was a cartoon version. Love them. Totally. I mean, I haven't seen the show since I was a little kid. Love the show, but like, didn't think anything of it ever again. So, you'll see why that's a side note in a little bit. When I first, I met my friend Allie. I don't think I've vlogged about her yet. She'll definitely be in the book. But basically, at that point when I met her, it was like a dirty secret about my gifts. Only a very small group of people knew. Very, very close friends and family. I mean, literally like a handful of people. I didn't tell people about it. I made sure to go out of my way not to let anyone know. It was my dirty little secret that I was gifted. I was raised to believe that it was bad and embarrassing. It just wasn't something I talked about. So then I meet this chick, Allie, and she like convinces me that I should kind of see where it goes with it and the people could benefit from me or whatever, and like I just kind of like went in one ear out the other, like that's easy for you to say. And she introduced me to her paranormal investigation team. They were called the Ghost Honeys. Hi girls. And I don't know, I kind of like was like, wow, this is like a thing, like there's like groups, like what is that? I didn't even know such a thing happened. I was always like, don't ask, don't tell. Through that experience, I kind of went online out of curiosity to see if there were other groups and stumbled across Live Paranormal. And that was sort of my first interaction with the paranormal community as a community. Tina and Abel were kind of like the first couple people ever in the community that I met with. And even back then, I didn't put my name or my face or anything. I don't know what I was going by back then. To be honest, I don't remember. Probably Lele something. And so, coincidentally, at the exact same time as I was sort of kind of putting my toe in the paranormal community, terrified, waiting for everyone to come back and tell me I was going to hell and I was evil, I was in my personal life going through school, and I was at that point finishing my bachelor's in criminal justice. I had planned to, after I finished my bachelor's in criminal justice, I was going to go join the police force. I only wanted to join the police force for a small amount of time, long enough to get into the FBI, because I really wanted to become a profiler. To this day, I think I would have done great with that, but you got to start at the bottom and you have to be a beat cop and then work your way into like a detective position and then get into the FBI. You can't just go from graduate to FBI. It just doesn't work like that. So the plan was, in my personal life, I was graduating. I had taken the Portland police test and I had ranked the top 98%. I was really proud of myself. And I had to take the PAT, the physical whatever test, and I started training for this test. And we had sandbags and all sorts of things set up. I was sure I was going to pass the PAT, and after that, it was just the psych eval, which over the years I learned you just don't bring it up and it's not an issue. So I kind of was like, okay, this is good. I'm going to be a cop, and then I'm going to work my way into the FBI. Believe me, this is relevant. What ended up happening, unfortunately or fortunately, you know, life does things like that. I ended up having a bad heart problem in the midst of all of that, and found out about some stuff with my heart, and there was no way I was going to pass the PAT on the medical exam. It just wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. So my degree was worthless. Originally, my first degree, I went to the Art Institute for 2 years to learn multimedia and web design, which actually was great because it helps me even now in terms of, you know, social media in this world. And then I switched gears and went to criminal justice, and I got my bachelor's in criminal justice. And then it felt like another like waste, you know, like great, my associates didn't go to my bachelor's, and my bachelor's is just sitting here. So I decided that I didn't want to just give up on it, and I still was interested in criminal justice aspects. So I wanted to look into becoming a private investigator, PI. And I did, actually. I took a lot of tests, I did a lot of studying, I got a lot of certifications. I did a lot of like sit downs with other PIs. I was very involved in the private investigator world here in Portland. I met a lot of them. I was going to start doing small jobs like fingerprinting and background checks and stuff like that, some skip traces, and I was actually getting really into it. Actually, even to this day, it's still something that I really enjoy. So my sister-in-law, I don't remember how, but somehow she kind of got wind of what I was doing, thought it was really cool, and she kind of started joining me. We did orientations together, took some classes together, we met some other PIs together, and then we started doing some jobs together. So there was a site that would send us on jobs and do investigations, like weird stuff. Like there was a fight, like a UFC or whatever, like some huge broadcasted fight that you had to pay pay-per-view to see, and they would like send us to bars with like this form, and like I guess in Portland at least, the bars have to pay a certain like fee or whatever to show pay-per-view shows like that in their bar, because obviously if you advertise we have the pay-per-view fight here, then they're going to bring way more business, but they want a cut of that. So like there were certain bars that were allowed to and certain bars that weren't, and so we were sent like this list of the entire city of like, you know, who's allowed to have it. So our job was to like low-key go check out these restaurants and these bars and like see if the fight was on and then report what we saw. Anyways, it was cool, it was fun. I don't remember what happened, honestly. Like basically what happened was, as I was doing all that, my toe was getting deeper in the paranormal world at the same time. Also, I went back to school for my master's, so it was getting a little hairy. I was working full time, and then I was going to school for my master's, and then I was kind of dabbling in the paranormal, barely, and then I was kind of dabbling into the PI stuff, and then I had kids, and crazy time. So I was getting a little further. I think at this point I kind of was like getting more comfortable in the paranormal world on the sidebar in my personal life. I think Abel and Tina, during one of their live streams, like had asked like, who are you? And I was kind of like, what do I do? I was like, I can't just stay anonymous forever. I don't have a screen name, I don't have anything. And they were like, let's video chat. And I'm just like, what do I do? Like, this is scary as hell. I was also super self-conscious. I will always be self-conscious. I think it's a Leo thing. We're just never comfortable with the way we look. But I did it, and it was like great. It was like the best experience ever. I love them. I had a good time. And I just was like, okay, I need a username. Like, I need to like solidify myself here. And I guess the two worlds, I literally think, if I remember right, I like was on my bed and I glanced over, you know, I'm an obsessive compulsive organizer. Sticky notes, highlighters, labels, spirals. I have a spiral for everything. I have a notebook for everything. It's ridiculous. So if I remember right, I was sitting on my bed and I looked over and I had my 3-ring binder that said PI, and I had like I put like a magnifying glass with like a stick, and then I had a little like notebook that said paranormal, because I was researching. I was learning about the community, and I was learning anyways. And I would literally remember like setting up this account on live paranormal and just sort of glancing at the two and being like, oh wait, actually that would work, right? Because PIs are like private investigators, and basically that's what you're doing if you go into people's house, like, you know, because at that point I was with the ghost hunnies. That's basically what we were doing, was investigating paranormal stuff. And I'm like, but these are personal stuff. It is PI work, right? Private. It's all for private people usually. I'm like, wait, that totally fits. Like, this is creepy. Like, okay, you know, I am a private investigator for paranormal events. At that point, that's what I was doing. I didn't know anything else besides the book didn't even come into play yet. I was just, you know, hanging out with the ghost hunnies as the medium. That's what happened. When I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a name, and I just put Paranormal PI. It seemed fitting. It was right in front of me, and that's how Paranormal PI was born. I ended up not doing the PI stuff. I literally don't remember what happened, why that ended. Maybe I lost it in the accident, you know, all that brain damage. I don't remember how that ended. But it just seemed to stick. Everyone seemed to like the name. It seemed fitting. It just was me. And that's how I was born, Paranormal PI. The side note is because I found out later when I was Googling Paranormal PI to make sure I wasn't like jacking so much shit, the only thing I keep seeing was YouTube videos of Sabrina the Teenage Witch cartoon version. And I guess there was an episode with a PI and they called it Paranormal PI. Didn't even know. Like, it had nothing to do with that. It just happened to be a coincidence. But that's how my name came about. That is how Paranormal PI was born. Weird story. Totally probably didn't see it coming, but that's how it's here. I gotta go, but I love you guys. Until next time.